Is the Kansas City Chief hate becoming too much? Are people overblowing this thing? I get that a lot of you were upset. I get that 31 fan bases hate the Chiefs. They hate winning. They hate Mahomes like they hated Tom Brady. There's a little bit to each side of this, I think, and it's getting crazy out of hand. How many people are crying and complaining about the outcome of the game? And you guys know I'll shoot you straight. I'll call it how I see it. And I have a feeling I'm going to be in the minority in this debate tonight. And that's fine. But it's wild to me how many people want to point fingers, cry, and complain about how the Kansas City Chiefs shouldn't be here. They shouldn't be there. The Bills had plenty of opportunities to win that game. I also think all of the hate headed toward Josh Allen. He'll never be this. He'll never win a Super Bowl. He didn't have any weapons. His organization is treating him and his surroundings like the Ravens did Lamar Jackson and the Philadelphia Eagles did Jalen Hurts prior to bringing in Saquon Barkley. The hate for Josh Allen has gone too far. He is him. He is literally a top 3 quarterback, fantasy, NFL. He will win a Super Bowl at some point. I firmly believe the organization has to be kicked in the rear end and make a move at wide receiver. They got to stop trying to throw janitors out there to catch passes from Josh Allen. But to complain about Josh Allen and say Josh Allen's not good, he'll never win a Super Bowl. This is why he is who he is. He's been exposed. He can never be clutch. He'll throw the game away. His coaches had him run the same play over and over and over. A lot of this is play calling. I'll have a random Roger come in here, a Monday morning Morgan, and say, all Josh Allen does is run up the left side over the left guard and do it over and over again, Smitty. He doesn't know what he's doing. Do you think he's calling all of these plays? Josh Allen is an elite player. Josh Allen will win a Super Bowl. Josh Allen will not be this guy that can't get over the hump for the entire course of his career. He's got a long career ahead of him, and the Buffalo Bills are always competitive. Lamar Jackson, look, I know everyone's going to rip on Lamar. They're going to rip on Josh Allen. They're going to continue to say these guys won't do it. I'm not saying Lamar is any different than this. Maybe I don't believe in Lamar as much as everybody else for the long term. I think he runs a lot. He's going to get injured at some point. He's been injured in the past, but I still think he gets more hate than he deserves. I was the biggest advocate and defender of Lamar Jackson when he was franchise tagged. Not another content creator was out here saying the league is wild. The league is wild for not going after Lamar Jackson when he had a 2 franchise tag tender. Franchise tag stuck to him walking into that offseason. Wild to me. I find myself on an island a lot of the time, but I'm certainly on an island kind of by myself in this regard. Does Mahomes get favoritism? Absolutely. Absolutely. Did Jordan get favoritism? Absolutely. Jordan walked up to a ref and goes, that was a foul. And you guys seen the clip. The guy's like, it was, Jordan? Michael, it was a foul? And he goes, yeah, it was a foul. He goes, okay, Michael, I believe you. Foul. I'm not saying that was right. I'm not saying LeBron deserves to be favored. I'm not saying Mahomes really even deserves to be favored. Is there favoritism? Abso-mother-freaking-lutely. And that's got to be addressed. And the referees, there needs to be some oversight over the referees because there's too much money at stake. Not just for the teams, not just for somebody, for like Vegas or for now people are putting money on the line on hires. Every play is going to be scrutinized. They need to get technology into high gear. And I'm like a lot of you. I'm a little worried about the way things are going to go with AI. I might be AI right now. I might not even be sitting here. I might be in Cancun with JD5 with my feet up right now, relaxing. And this is a digital copy of me. We don't know. It's going to get crazy, but we have to get the referees under some sort of accountability cloud. There needs to be somebody hovering above that says, the play that you did not call was so bad and it impacted the game so greatly, you were on probation. One more like that and you're not ever going to referee a big spotlight game. There needs to be oversight. No doubt about it. You need to have geo-tracking in the ball so you know if the ball crossed the line of scrimmage. And they can show it on the screen. You can see a heat map looking image of where the ball is. And there'd be no argument. There'd be no complaining and moaning and absolutely just losing your mind. But that's a whole nother topic. I 100% believe we should be doing this. 100%. Brent says, nice sunglasses. Brent, why don't you think about your actions in a 10-minute timeout? How's that? Go enjoy my glasses now. Let's talk about it more. The phone lines will be open. Probably be a little heated debate here tonight. The Fantasy Football Show begins now.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios. It's the Fantasy Football Show. Live! Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Smitty is also live whenever news breaks.
So, we've got other news to go over. Josh Allen suffered a wrist injury, some swelling. He should be okay. We've got a whole bunch of other stuff. Russell Wilson, this news here, the Steelers probably, this is Steelers owner Art Rooney said he anticipates the team re-signs Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. They're in talks with Russ Wilson. I don't want it to be Fields. I want Fields to be free as a bird. Go over to Seattle, throw to DK Metcalf and JSN. Go over to the Raiders and toss Pigskins over in the direction of Bowers and Pete Carroll's offense. I mean, that might be perfect because Pete Carroll's going to run probably a 2 wide receiver set anyway, and Fields will get a lot of work running the ball. He'll definitely feed Bowers in an effective fashion. It might be a good marriage, but there's definitely a world where Fields returns to glory. He just needs to find a home where he can be cultivated. And even though I don't know if Pete Carroll can do it again, and I think he can, I'm not saying he can't, there's no coach that would be more rah that's available to go in and kind of fix Fields. I think Fields, drop a free Fields hashtag in the live chat if you want to see Fields elsewhere and not in Pittsburgh. I don't care if they don't bring Russ back. I don't want to see Fields in Pittsburgh. I'd rather see him in Pittsburgh starting without Russell Wilson than not, starting for a team. But I do think it's a pretty decent situation to get Fields in either Seattle or Raiders uniform or whatever. We've got a couple other landing spots. Josh Allen, hopefully he's okay. I don't think there's going to be anything big from this. Todd Monken, who could easily get a head coaching job right now, Ravens signed Todd Monken to a contract extension. Well-deserved. The guy did a great job with that offense. Some people say he didn't do a good job at the end there, but I love what Monken was able to cook up in Baltimore. He's absolute amazing mind. And he's one of those people that if he goes to another situation as a head coach, he could fail. I'm glad he's staying put, kind of, getting more on his resume before he goes and takes a stab at maybe failing. Look, OCs, no one's saying that Kingsbury can't leave and go head coach somewhere, but he's failed as a head coach, and he's an amazing offensive coordinator. No one's saying Kyle Shanahan can't go OC somewhere and be absolutely amazing. Be the Ben Johnson for another team. Be the Kingsbury for another team. But Shanahan, same thing can be said for a couple OCs, that they're when they're elevated, they don't do well. So Ben Johnson, we don't know what he is. He could be amazing. He could be an amazing head coach, but he goes into one of the most problematic situations where this organization in Chicago, they're not serious about football. They aren't serious about developing their quarterback. They're not serious about making their current GM, Ryan Poles, be accountable. Everybody else has been a scapegoat. So, Ben Johnson has kind of, in my opinion, he's got an uphill climb. Now, could he do it? Yeah, he could. But OCs aren't guaranteed anything. And Monken going somewhere to start to be a head coach is not going to necessarily just work because he was a great OC. You end up watering down a lot of your capabilities as the offensive coordinator and mastermind when you end up going into a head coaching role and you've got to worry about everything. Then you can't get in the kitchen to cook. And you're a chef that's an amazing chef. You're an amazing OC, and you have no time to cook. You're just handling all the top-level stuff and personnel decisions. And some OCs, even though he was not technically the OC, he was very much one in some form, constructing the Deebo Samuel role, the wide back role in San Francisco. Mike McDaniel, before he went to Miami to be a head coach for the very first time, amazing mind. We thought, oh, this is going to be beautiful. He is piss poor at clock management. He is piss poor at a lot of things. He is not a good head coach. He's an amazing offensive coordinator that can have his offense absolutely just cranking. But can he do it all? Does he collapse as a head coach? He kind of does. That's what Shanahan's been doing. Bears might fail Ben Johnson. We need President Trump to write a preemptive pardon that pardons Ben Johnson from any actions that occur in Chicago, because if it doesn't work out, he needs to be able to go somewhere not judged, allowed to do whatever the hell he wants, because Ben Johnson is an amazing mind, but he's going into an uphill battle that might be absolutely hard and trying for him. Jerry Jones, probably one of the top 3 worst GMs in the entire National Football League, and sometimes people forget he is the GM. He's the owner, he's the GM. I'm surprised he hasn't coached at this point. I'm surprised he didn't name himself the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys 2025. At some point it's going to happen. This is as big a risk as you can take. No head coaching experience for Schottenheimer. And what he's saying here is in response to somebody questioning why he just wants to surround himself with yes men. Why he can't go get a big name coach. Like, why aren't you taking a risk, Jerry? And he said, risk. You don't think this is risk? This is as big a risk as you could take, putting him front and center, and that he thinks this is going to work. I'm not here to say it won't work. Schottenheimer he's never called plays. He was the offensive coordinator. So, like, his offense was last year's Dallas Cowboy offense. So there's some, breathe easy. He knows what's going on. He knows how to deploy everything. But it's a big difference being involved in the play calling, watching McCarthy call all the plays, watching Kellen Moore the previous, this is a system here that he's taking over that was built by Kellen Moore. Then McCarthy continued on with it, right? Decided to call plays, and Schottenheimer becomes the OC. So he's seen the succession. He's been a part of that tail end of the succession. And it's comforting to know he knows what's going on. He knows what time it is. And things probably won't change that much. And you can rely on Dak in a lot of ways. He's a veteran quarterback. I think this will work out. I think he'll have Dak's ear. Dak will have his ear. This was a so-called Dak hire. And this is, I believe, what Dak wants, according to some people that I feel know what they're talking about. And so there's some upside here. But the thing is, we got to pump the brakes on Jerry's making very bad decisions, and he's penny pinching. And so my concern here is that this is one of those situations where it feels a lot like the excitement we had about the New York Jets, and then things fall flat a little bit. And then this man, who's so scared to spend a dime, he won't get Saquon Barkley, he won't get Derrick Henry, he won't get Josh Jacobs, he won't draft an elite running back that we tell him to draft. He just continues to go down the road he's going down. I'm a little fearful that if this is genuinely a penny pinching move, it won't work. If he believes in Schottenheimer, he sees something in Schottenheimer. I'm not saying Jerry doesn't have some sort of skills left to determine this or determine that. It's been a pretty successful organization for the long term. He's off his rocker. He's lost some marbles. He wakes up on the wrong side of the bed, and it's really hard to know if he knows right from left and up from down. My general thought on this isn't the best news in the world that Schottenheimer is the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, the starting coach of the Dallas Cowboys. It's not the end of the world. There is some upside here. There's a lot more risk than there is upside, in my opinion, but the fact remains Dak Prescott will throw to CeeDee Lamb. If you want a silver lining here, and again, if I could undo it and put Kellen Moore in this spot, I would. And I think Kellen Moore wanted this spot. Kellen Moore is why Schottenheimer is even there. Kellen Moore is why McCarthy even had an offense to use and utilize. And bounce off of once he tried to go more balanced and half run, half pass, go more run heavy. Remember that? McCarthy's, we're going to get back to running the damn ball. That was his quote. When McCarthy was taking over play calling for Kellen Moore 2 years ago, he said, we're going to get back to running the damn ball. They couldn't run worth a darn walking into the earlier part of the year. The Cowboys fell flat early on, and McCarthy pulled back the reins and said, never mind, let's implement Kellen Moore's system that worked all year last year. And McCarthy backed off, and they full throttled the passing attack, and Lamb had his best season probably ever, if I remember correctly, 2 years ago. Best season he's ever had. So we know that Dak and this offense, which I believe can still be commanded and conducted by Schottenheimer, is elite. And I do believe the silver lining here, with a little bit of risk, but the risk is baked in, probably goes along the lines of something like this in your draft. Okay? Here's a mock draft here that we did the other night. You see CeeDee Lamb at number 6 overall. There's a really strong chance that Lamb, because of Schottenheimer, because of the fears of the Dallas Cowboys hierarchy there, that he could fall down past Puka Nacua and maybe below St. Brown. I have Neighbors higher than the average Bear. This is my mock draft we did live on the show. So move Neighbors down probably below Nico. So you're probably looking at, let's see here if I can do this with the camera. You're probably looking at somewhere around this territory. We're going to have, let me see if I can, the camera's upside down. Probably right here is where you'd have Neighbors. You probably have Nico right here. You probably have St. Brown right here. And we move Lamb down to about this territory. There's a really good shot that CeeDee Lamb is going at the earliest 9, probably more like 10, and we could luck out in best ball drafts. Maybe not as much in best ball because they're so wide receiver heavy, but in your home leagues, Lamb going maybe even at this bookend, at least if you're doing some sort of early on draft. Even if it's dynasty, there's still going to be some value. I absolutely think there's silver lining here, because at the end of the day, even with Schottenheimer maybe having some bumps in the road, maybe it's still going to be productive. Lamb's still going to ball out. Lamb is still capable of being the number 1 or number 2 overall wide receiver 2025 fantasy football. And for that, I'm okay investing. I'm not running from the situation from an investment standpoint, especially when given the cost of entry. Now on to the bigger topic, and then we'll open the phone lines. Left and right, or actually this topic and then one more. So this is the Josh Allen topic. This is where I'm going to get a little frustrated, and I'm a little bit, I don't know, annoyed, if you could say, that the whole, I don't know, content creating community loves to throw these hot topics out, and people are afraid to speak their mind. You might not agree with me, but you damn respect that I come and shoot how it's straight. I tell you how I feel. I shoot from the hip. I don't hold back. I never lie to you. I tell you exactly how I feel. I'm bold. I may not be right every time. I know I'm not in the majority here. I know I'm in the minority here. But I will tell you, in terms of the KC Chief Heat hate, I think it's out of control. I think it's based in a lot of fandom. There are 31 fan bases that can't stand this organization. It's a very loud, noisy community of hate and screw the Chiefs. You know, the refs are in it. I'm not watching football anymore. Like, it's to the extreme. And I've even said over and over, there needs to be accountability. There needs to be accountability. We need to have the referees under some sort of spotlight, and we need to hone in and crack down on the favoritism that 100% does exist. 100% there is favoritism. So listen to the words coming out of my mouth, because I'm acknowledging the stance of the haters and the people that want to see KC's downfall, and people that say negative things about this man that is probably one of the nicest guys you would ever meet. Patrick Mahomes would probably give you the shirt off his back if you needed it and he didn't know you. Patrick Mahomes is probably the nicest guy you would ever meet coming from sports. Probably would not tell you to get out of here if you were interrupting him when he was walking out of a restaurant with his family. Probably sign your autograph. This guy runs to the referees when the opposing players get hurt. He says, come over here when they need a cart. This guy's actually 100%, I don't know, probably one of the best people in the National Football League. And the hate for him is driven off of the same hate people hated Brady for. He wins. He's not your quarterback. It's ridiculous. Name two things besides the Josh Allen controversy. Name two things that Mahomes has done that's negative toward his character, that makes him a bad person, and that warrants all the crazy negative hate that he gets left and right. Name one thing. I was rooting for the Bills. I wanted the Bills to win this game. But it's wild to me how many people think this man is a bad man. It's wild to me how many people think he's an average quarterback. And it's wild to me that everybody thinks they lost this game because of the referees. It was their favoritism. Absolutely. But it was on the Buffalo Bills. And not just on this man. This man had no help. And he had horrible play calling. There was a lot going on. There was multiple ways that the Buffalo Bills could have won this game. They didn't lose because of this. Did the refs help? Yeah, you could say that. Any game they play, you could say there's a little favoritism. Going back to what I said earlier, did Jordan get favoritism? Yes. Is it wrong? Yes. Do the refs need to take accountability for it? Yes. Does there need to be oversight? Yes. 100%. 100%. But that doesn't make him overrated. It doesn't mean that the Bills had tons of opportunities to win the game. And everybody's going to cherry pick and look for things that were wrong. And the problem I have is that the two examples that everybody's using from this game were not even clear cut. The catch by Worthy hit the ground, but the ground can't cause the fumble, and the ball was secure. And you could argue, did it move? Did it not move? I could see it going either way. But the fact that everybody thinks that was clear cut, that shouldn't have been a catch, is wild to me. It shows your bias. And I have put the Josh Allen 1-yard plunge on my Instagram. And I have shown this thing over and over and over, where I draw the line and you can see where the ball probably is. Is it close? Yes. Is there footage that shows the ball actually cross over or touch that line? No. So it's all assumption that you have to make. Not saying that I don't also share the assumption that the ball probably did touch up against where that line was. That if it was Mahomes, there would be favoritism. 100% agree. And that's where we share the mindset that this league needs to have accountability for the referees. The league needs to have some sort of oversight where the referees can't referee another game if they miss a second call or a huge call. They're on probation. There needs to be some sort of oversight. You need to get technology involved so the referees aren't trying to figure this thing out. You need to have geo-tracking in the football and a heat-like map on the overhead screen so the fans can watch where the ball crossed when they review it. There needs to be more AI, unfortunately, because it's going to be so advanced, that can take care of these things and wipe out the controversy. But it's so crazy to me that these two things that we have in front of us, the Worthy no catch and this rushing attempt by Josh Allen, are the reason why people are boycotting the Super Bowl, the reason why people are complaining and crying and moaning about the Chiefs, because their fan base is not the same fan base. There's 31 fan bases that have a reason to cherry pick here. I understand. You could show me another game, and I like holding penalties. Even if you go back to which I get so tired of hearing Niner fans complain and cry about the Super Bowl holding calls. But there's more cases to look at there. A blatant hold where someone's holding on. That's something you could complain about. If the game ended with a blatant hold like that, I could see that. But these two particular plays, these are the hills you choose to live and die on. An actual arguable catch that 100% can be argued. 100% can be argued. And this rushing attempt where I'm showing you the evidence where there is no evidence. There's only assumption, very logical assumption, and then it gets back to the root of the problem. Would the favoritism go in favor of Mahomes in that situation? Probably. And that's where we agreed. That's where there needs to be oversight. But for people to sit here and say that Josh Allen clearly, he crossed the line. Look, it's on my Instagram. I broke it down. You don't know where the ball is. You don't know. There's no shot of it. I show it from multiple angles. And he goes right up against that, and his back is to you. This is very arguable. And the truth of the matter is, let me give you this in layman's terms. When Taysom Hill was a tight end many years back, this channel said, draft Taysom Hill. He's a tight end now, but he might compete for the quarterback job, and you will win your league. You will win your league if Taysom Hill becomes a quarterback and he's tight end eligible. What happened? Taysom Hill ended up starting at quarterback through injuries and whatnot, and he was tight end eligible. People were crushing their leagues because of advice given on this channel.
Let him cook.
You know what happened? 11 people out of every league, 11 out of 12 people cried and complained and got their panties in a bunch, and they emailed ESPN and they tweeted ESPN, they tagged ESPN, they made a whole lot of noise. And 11 people out of every league were wrong. The one person that was astute, that drafted within the confines of the rules, knew in advance that this was a possibility, was smart enough to draft Taysom Hill. Everybody else complained. They were louder. There was 11 of them. Just like there's 31 fan bases that hate Patrick Mahomes. There's 31 people complaining and crying and moaning about this situation. Not saying there's not room to negotiate this topic and conversation. Not saying that at all. But there's 31 fan bases that think this is absolute crazy, the catch and then this. These are two debatable things. Very debatable. I'm shooting you straight. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I'm not going to ride the wave like everybody else in the media world right now. Everybody knows that this is a touchy subject and they're going to get yelled at by their fan base or whatever. I'm not scared to tell you how I feel. I'm embarrassed for people that are crying and complaining and boycotting the Super Bowl because of a worthy catch that you could easily argue and a Josh Allen run where there's zero evidence on either side. Not zero evidence of him not crossing the line, zero evidence on either side. And you could say, well, then they shouldn't overturn or they should look at. I get all that. That's all very debatable stuff. But there's nothing here for you to say that this is for sure, Smitty. And if you say it is, he crossed the line, show me. Because you can't show me because you can't see the ball. Is body twisted? I've actually done another video on it where I put the circle around where the ball should be the entire time, and it does probably touch right up against that line briefly. But these are the two hills that people are going to stand on and die on. The worthy catch, no catch, and the Josh Allen evidence, no evidence. Use a hold call. Or argue about how Josh Allen got leveled at the end of the play and it should have been a roughing the passer. Argue something tangible, because the worthy argument and the Josh Allen rushing 1-yard plunge argument for a first down on fourth down, those aren't good arguments. They just aren't. And no one's going to tell you but me. There's 31 of the fan bases, 31 fan bases doing the same thing the 11 teams out of 12 did with Taysom Hill. They're loud. It's unfair. They don't like it. And they're complaining and they're very loud. That's it. Plain and simple. Ron Nave, you're live.
What up, Smitty?
What's up?
I'm not gonna get all hyper on you though, but the big thing is, I understand where you're coming from. There's no way you're saying, but you couldn't see the ball. But the referee on the other side had him spotted for a first down, which he was on the side where the ball was, so he could probably see the ball, and the referee on the other side couldn't see the ball, and that's where they spotted the ball. So that's a conflict there. And I don't know if you saw the article with Gene Salator, ex-ref. He came out with an article and said the Bills got screwed. That was the first down.
But that's again the different angles, the different perspectives. I get it, but when there's such a hardline stance, just so you know, like for people that agree with what you're saying, the referee ran straight forward from where he was standing. You can even see him right here. He runs. He's on the line right there, so you can see him in the background right there, and he's running straight forward. Straight down that line, and there's a player in his way, and so he runs around the player. There's different arguments. I'm not saying that I don't agree that maybe in his mind he was spotting it, but he was also just running straight down from where he was standing. They straight in that vicinity of where it was all at. I get what people are trying to say, and there's arguments to be made, no doubt about it. I'm just saying the problem I have is talk about the roughing the passer. Like if people wanted to die on that hill,
well, I agree with that.
I could at least agree with that. But the worthy catch, no catch, ground can't cause the fumble. There's arguments to be made here, and in this play, you cannot see the ball. And every argument that people have where they say, "Oh, so and so said he got screwed. Tony Romo said this, he said that," or nobody has any tangible evidence on either side. So it's a on the moment call preference type thing. It's a favoritism. And that's where I say there is a problem. There is a problem with favoritism. No doubt about it. But I'm just saying anybody that said, I don't care who said it, Romo, I don't care who says it. Anybody that says it that as if it's actual fact, I don't care what they're saying. Because there's no evidence on either side. There's no viewpoint of the ball. We can't just assume everything. We can't assume that this referee let this guy twist his arm and say, we're changing to my call. Have you talked to the referee? Has anybody had a conversation with him? Maybe he wasn't even spotting it at all.
I should have a conversation.
Agreed. That's where the oversight should come in.
But on a totally different play, okay, we can talk about the roughing the passer, but I mean nobody brought this up. That big run back that Kansas City had, I counted 3 blocking the backs that were never called on that run back. By Kansas City.
That's where it drives me nuts.
That were never called.
That's where it drives me nuts, though, because it's always deflecting to a different Kansas City Chief favoritism. That's where we're in agreement. The refs need to be held accountable, but everybody's cherry picking and looking for it in these 2 particular plays. Because whenever we have this conversation, someone like Dice Boy will come back and say something like this, which I don't even necessarily disagree with, okay? But here's where people go. When you corner them on this and you say, show me the evidence, it's just, Smitty, almost every Chiefs game comes down to those calls. So now we're going to other games to try and defend 2 calls that everybody's saying this is why it should have gone this way. That's where I have a problem with this conversation. We can't tie previous games to this game. We can only try and put a momentum in motion, a fan base calling for some sort of oversight to try and fix the favoritism that has clearly been handed to the Kansas City Chiefs, like Jordan was handed favoritism, LeBron gets favoritism. It's going to happen in pro sports. Jordan walked right up to a ref and said that was a foul. Remember that play? And he goes, "You think so, Michael?" And he goes, "I know." And he goes, "Okay, Michael, I believe you." Patted him on the back and then turned around and blew the whistle and called the foul late. That's ridiculous. That should have never happened. But to talk about that play on why he won the game after that, it's just crazy to me. I'm trying to have a conversation about this isolated game. And when people say the Bills got screwed, those 2 plays didn't do it. We don't even know. We don't even know what happened. We can't even see it. And so for me, it comes down to call the roughing the passer one. Make that your hill to die on, because there at least you have visual evidence that something was not called. That's my take. And I just so sick and tired of the Patrick Mahomes hate.
Isn't it strange that they threw a flag on that and just mysteriously picked it up without any explanation?
Did you see a flag? Did you see the flag? Be honest. Was this the incident where everyone said they mentioned it on air, but there was never visual evidence there was a flag on the field?
There was a flag. There was a flag there.
Are you sure? Are you sure it was on the field though? Because I don't. He said, "Oh, there's a flag on. I think there's a flag," and then they go, but regardless, that's also looking for it though. Like now you got people saying, "Hey, they threw a flag early just in case." So when that Kincaid long bomb went sailing downfield. All the conspiracy theorists said that they threw a flag preemptively just in case it was caught. Like everybody's got these crazy wild conspiracy.
Not that play.
Okay.
I'm talking at the very end of the game when Allen got body slammed, WWE body slammed to the ground at the end. There was a flag at the very last play of the game, and it mysteriously got picked up, and nothing was even said about it. I'm not talking about Kincaid.
Well, I get, but again, this is deflection to like other things, trying to find something. That is my greater point here.
I'm not trying to find anything.
I know.
I'm just watching the game, just like you, and I know what I see.
But that
and then it's not coincidental. I mean, the favoritism is not coincidental. I mean, happens every time the Kansas City Chiefs are in the playoffs.
Do you think that the refs are sat down? And you can be honest. I'm not going to even be mad at your answer. I'm just going to be dumbfounded, I guess. But do you believe that the refs are sat down in a room or a phone call or some covert text message or any sort of communication at all, and they're conveyed who should win the game? Do you really believe that that's happening?
I don't know. It's very suspicious that it keeps happening. I mean, I can't say that the refs are sit down. I mean, that's ludicrous to even say they're sat down in a room. Is it a possibility? It could be a possibility. I mean, look, and I brought it up yesterday. I said, look what happened to the NBA refs that got caught for cheating. So refs are known for cheating in different sports, and so.
And I agree there.
Football, it can happen in football.
Is someone
too.
compromised because they lost too much money to the wrong person, and then they're strong arm?
Look at that Detroit call last year when they brought in the offensive lineman. And he reported right directly to the ref, and then the ref turned around and said, no, he never reported to me.
Do I think that there's compromised people? Of course, bro. These are human beings that are corrupt individuals at their core. Like, just a human being is naturally prone to dishonesty and all that. That's why we try to be good people in life, because it's hard. We're human beings, and if you throw financial troubles or something onto somebody and they're in this position, and then you got photos of what he's doing on the weekend, and you're sending him blackmail letters, and all of a sudden you got a corrupt referee on your hands. But what I'm saying is the grander scale of this thing, the big scheme, that these refs are sat down in a chair and they're told, we're going to have the KC Chiefs win this game. Do you hear me? I'm looking around. You guys better not allow this to happen. I want flags being thrown if there's a ball at the end of the game that goes in the air. Like, that's wild. That's wild to me that people could even think that.
It is wild, but is it impossible?
And if it's not that, then it's a grand favoritism that needs to be, and I agree. This is where I agree with everyone on this topic that's negatively against the Chiefs and the refs. And there needs to be better oversight and more technology involved so that you can't get away with anything. How are you going to get away with it if technology's telling you exactly what to do? I believe in 10 years there will not be a single referee on the field. I don't think you'll need it. You'll have cameras going all over, flying drones that are just in every single spot, and you'll alleviate some of this. I do believe. But for right now, the agreeing stance I think we all have is that the referees, the favoritism, even if people think there's more cheating going on than that, at least I think people will agree, the favoritism part could be cut down and eliminated for the most part if you have heavier, stricter oversight. This is kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like a referee has free reign. There's no responsibility. There's no report card. There's no you got to be above this, inaccuracy or you're gone. There should be some sort of pressure applied to a ref where they've got to be accurate, and if they have so many bad calls that can be proven, they need to be out of here. That to me, the threat of losing your job and not being able to ever referee a big game again, and maybe you're resorted to preseason refereeing, or you can only do regular season games as a demotion from playoff games. All those steps of being demoted will absolutely straighten out a referee. And maybe you're going to say, well, Goodell's corrupt and he doesn't want that, Smitty. Then we got to get rid of Goodell. Like, what I'm saying is there has to be, this has to be cleaned up from a favoritism perspective. It needs to be a level playing field. Of that, I agree. And I don't think Jordan should be able to tell a referee to call foul.
There's nobody following any money, though. I mean, these refs could be getting paid
oversight.
In an offshore account.
Oversight.
Nobody's following no money. There's no oversight.
Oversight.
Exactly. There's no oversight.
And if you are going to be a referee, you need to relinquish your privacy, maybe, in some of those respects. Why? Because you are responsible for millions of dollars being placed on almost every play now. This is no longer just an outcome of a game screwing somebody out of money. This is now every single play has its own part of the gambling world that could throw somebody in a downward spiral. Someone could lose there. And if anybody is ever struggling with that kind of, make sure you call this. No, nobody should be in that position. There's a number right there too. 1-800-NEXT-STEP. Make sure I'm being serious. Like, nobody should be ever, betting what they can't afford to lose. But what I'm trying to say is there's like one play. How many first downs does this receiver get? And then on top of that, Ron, so if they call back, let's say a Keon Coleman 40-yard catch, there could be Keon Coleman's yardage higher or lower. Keon Coleman's reception higher or lower. Keon Coleman's third quarter, he has this many yards higher or lower. There's so many different bets being placed on that Keon Coleman catch. Josh Allen yardage, defensive, whatever. The score. There's people losing and gaining money on every single play. And so I do believe if you're going to be a referee, you should have your finances combed over. You should have everything combed over because you are responsible for so much money exchanging hands. So 100%, that's where I stand.
On controversial calls like that, especially like with the Worthy catch and stuff like that, controversial calls, what they should do is they should look at, every single betting site and how many people bet over and how many people bet under in all the different situations, and see if the bookies made more money by it being over than under, or made more money being under than over. They should look at each one of those.
Jay Freezy says, "Do we know for sure that there's no oversight?" Not entirely, because they don't share that with us. Calvin really had to miss the entire NFL season just for gambling on a website. True. So there is some surrendering of privacy for players that you unfortunately have to surrender if you want to play in the National Football League.
Yes.
But we don't know.
But not for the NFL
we don't
itself.
know. We don't know.
It's like
Jay
when
Freezy
went to court.
Jay Freezy's right. We don't know, though. They could have something in place. But my guess is it's not as big of a scrutinization type of process. But I do believe that if Goodell gets bumped, Goodell's the problem. Goodell's the problem. And I don't know how this gets fixed. Maybe teams have to eventually start pushing back on him more than they do. I don't know. I mean, he just signed, I think, a new extension or whatever. But Goodell's the problem. I think Goodell needs to be pushed out. Anybody ever in power is corruptible. That's a big problem. There needs to be some sort of oversight, maybe over the commissioner. There's got to be something to keep this thing from getting out of control in terms of the favoritism. I'm merely arguing tonight, though. I'm merely arguing tonight, though, the hatred for Mahomes is unwarranted. The hatred for the Kansas City Chiefs is unwarranted. You want to hate someone, hate the referees. Like, why are we hating the Kansas City Chiefs? Why is Mahomes the brunt of every joke? And he doesn't need my protection or defense. He's a multimillionaire, could care less about it. I'm just merely...
You're going to get that. You're going to get hatred toward the team that's getting the...
You're going to.
I mean, that's just the way it's always been, no matter what team.
But it's...
And you're going to get hatred because they shove Taylor Swift down your throat every other commercial.
Yeah, that's
every commercial break.
That does get annoying. It does get annoying.
People get pissed at that shit too.
Let me go to John real quick. John, you're live.
Oh, I was going to say Tim Donaghy, Adam Silver, and David Stern, they were 100% telling the refs give certain calls for these players and not other players. And I think at the very least, they could start doing what the MLB does and put more referees in the playoffs. At the very least. I mean, if you think about it in NBA, there's 3 refs to watch 10 guys. Well, in the NFL, I think there's like maybe 4 or 6, but there's 11 like interactions, 1-to-1, 1-to-1. There's not enough eyeballs to catch all the holding calls, to catch all the pass interference, defensive, offensive holding and whatnot.
Yeah.
And there needs to be, like you said, the tracing system like they have in tennis where it sees whether it's on the line. That bring integrity back to the game. That way we don't have people like saying, oh, we're not going to watch the Super Bowl, yada, yada.
And people complained when they did instant replay. They're like, come on, that's the integrity of that. But then why are you complaining every damn second about how the referee got it wrong? So let's implement it. It ended up being very good. I think at the end of the day, they're going to have a lot more technology and AI assisting development of where the ball is. It'll be so advanced, man, where like you could literally tell whether there was too much pressure applied to somebody's shoulder pads when they were hit and leveled, and did the player like pull up when, like, you know, when there's a roughing the passer, if they could sense, and they'll have all of this, give it 10 years, maybe even 5, maybe even 4. Where a player hits, but you could tell if they pulled up and tried to avoid the contact. There'll be so much involved. The problem we have, though, is if the commissioner is corrupt at the top, you know, or he's got motivations that are skewed and not aligned with the fan base and the owners and everything, then it's going to be hard to really get to the root of the problem and to have him implement things that will have outcomes that he doesn't want. If he wants an outcome to be this, he's not going to put a process in place necessarily that's going to push that. I think Goodell's the problem. I think that's problem number 1. Getting rid of Goodell might be the answer to all of these things. But at the end of the day, I still the root of the argument here, though, for tonight is that everybody that's crying and complaining about how the Chiefs shouldn't be in the Super Bowl, the 2 arguments that are 99% floated out there are the 2 very debatable plays. That's my point tonight, and the hatred is crazy toward Mahomes right now because of it, and it's just it kind of is annoying. But the crazy part is I agree with the majority of, okay, well, what about when someone says, well, what about all year long when they're okay, that's a totally different argument though. But for this particular game, when I show someone this, I'm like, show me the ball. Show me the ball crossing the line. Well, you know it did. No, I don't know. And I don't know that it didn't. I don't know that it did. So it's going to come down to who made this judgment call, you know? And so that's the problem I have with this conversation. Not that there wasn't a roughing the passer potential situation on Josh Allen. That's a good argument. No one talks about that. Ron, you brought it up last night, but no one really peddles that out there as the reason. You want to talk about a holding call against the Niners, you know, previous year, whatever. Like, those are things you can visually look at, and I understand those arguments. At least I can understand those, and I can understand wanting to crack down on those. I'm somewhat laughing when I see everybody going, well, what do we cling to? Let's cling to this, 4th and 1. Let's cling to the worthy. That was totally not a catch. I'm so objective when it comes to whether a play is in or out, foot is on the line. I don't let anything influence my prediction. I'll be watching a game when we do a beginning of the game on Thursday nights or something. I'll be like, that's out. I don't even hesitate based on my fantasy football players that I own or based on a underdog hire or anything like that. I'll call it like I see it. And I'm just sitting here going, what do we cling to? We need to cling to something. That's my problem. It's not that there aren't cases of it.
Smitty,
there are.
You brought up the point that you couldn't see the ball. But isn't it crazy to think, why couldn't we see the ball when they only showed the angle from the one side of it? They should have cameras on the other side, plus they have the overhead camera. I mean, they never even showed those angles.
There is an overhead camera shot.
Why is it only one angle?
There is an overhead camera. There's 3 or 4 angles. They've got a ton of angles on it. They got but every angle doesn't show the ball cross the line. It literally, based on me drawing the line, I got to draw the line. Like I'm drawing the line and I'm zooming. I put it all together on my Instagram. I went frame by frame and moved the line, and then I went to the next frame and moved the line, and I kept that line right up with that pylon. There's no way to know yes or no, and so the problem is the history of the Chiefs getting all these calls is what's making people frustrated on this one specific call. I get it. I understand it. At least I do understand it, but.
You know. Here's the thing too, is if you know how a garage door works, right? If a garage door, you open it, you close it, and there's something in the sensor catches it, it won't let it close all the way down. That technology's out there, so it's like we're saying, you put a chip in the ball, you put the flags themselves have sensors on them or whatever, they put it on the line, and that sensor should be able to, if the ball crosses
geotracking
it picks up the signal and it tells them.
Yeah,
that technology's there.
That's what I said.
Like
they should have geotracking and a heat map above where even the fan base can watch during the game, or especially during the replays of like, did the ball cross? They show the ball. It's a big red, goes into like heat map mode, and you just see this ball, this red ball in this line, and did the ball breach? And then it lights up, and everyone's like. Like, I mean, you could make this thing exciting. You could bring the technology to the table, and they definitely have the technology now. But there's going to be so much more that they need to implement. The problem is, if Goodell is not in favor of fixing something for a specific reason, I don't think Goodell is instructing referees to do something. I think Goodell's turning a blind eye because what's happening now is favoring the outcome that he wants and the NFL benefits and profits from. So I think Goodell is turning a blind eye. If this was making the Chiefs lose every game, then he would step in and probably do something. And that's where Goodell needs to be removed, because I don't know that Goodell's going to clean up the problem that is actually at hand. I just think that we're looking for it too much. What?
Goodell doesn't make the rules. It's the competition committee that has to change it, and that's the owners. The owners are the problem when it comes to what cannot be construed as
Goodell
a
has
foul,
some
or what a replay can be used for, or whatever.
Goodell's got a lot of control that people don't realize. Like when it comes down to disciplinary action, where there is a certain policy, he can override it and say, Deshaun Watson,
but the rules
you're going
committee,
on
the competition committee are the ones that decide, okay, how many times are we going to use the replay? What can the replays be used on? Those are the committees by the owners.
Well,
the owners.
It all needs to change.
Those are the ones
it all needs to change.
Change
no doubt about it. And Goodell eventually needs to be kicked out.
But Goodell, he's guilty for favorable or unfavorable punishment. Somebody does the same thing on two different people, and he punishes them totally two different ways.
Yeah,
consistently.
There's going to be something that eventually moves him out, I think. But for right now, it's hard to say. Calvin really had... Oh, I'm sorry, you read that. Dane, appreciate your $10 hauler. I'm so sorry for making you wait. Dane, are you still here? Dane says, won my startup Dynasty League with your help. Love your content. Quick question. Remembering your take on James Cook at the start of the season, has it changed or should you take a lap? Dane, I don't know what you're talking about, to be honest with you. I have evolving values on players, and we were very high on Cook at a certain part of the season. So there might have been, this is a problem with a show like mine where I go live not only once a day for an hour to 4 hours during the 8 p.m. show, depending on the time of year. So there's almost 1 to 4 hours of daily talking that I do on top of maybe 1 to 2 more shows that are an hour or two. So you're talking about nearly 1,000, I would say, so 365 days, probably something along the lines of 1,000 hours of me running my mouth about play. I can only say so much, bro, and I'm going to change my mind. So no offense here, and I appreciate your $10 hauler and Brofist for the win, but you're not sending me in a lap, bro. I talked up James Cook for a majority of the year. So I may have said something you didn't like in the offseason, about James Cook, but he was a huge go trade for him, a huge get him in your lineup. T. Higgins, Jamison Williams, and James Cook were those mid-season, let's jump on, pounce on this, the value is going to change. So the answer is no, but I appreciate your $10 super chat, and I'm going to change my opinion on a lot of things. I'm going to pump up a guy like Kenneth Walker all off season long. He goes crazy. He does amazing. This is 2 years ago. Does amazing for the first month of football. He's the touchdown leader in the National Football League through 4 games. And I come on the mic here and I say, you guys aren't going to like this, and it's not going to make much sense right now, but I think we need to trade Kenneth Walker. And everyone's like, well, you liked him all off season. How can you do this to us? It's the nature of fantasy football. There's no, you say something, you have to stick to it. This is a adjust and adapt season, baby. All day long, every day. Stay liquid, stay loose. Stay liquid, stay loose. That's what we say on this channel. You got to be able to flow, bro. I appreciate your super chat. John, did you have anything else?
Oh yeah, I wanted to get your. I wanted to know whether or not you like Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland better, and where do you want them to land? Where's your preferred destination for Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland? Which one do you like better?
I don't know that I'm really into this 2025 tight end class at all. Really, I could change my mind on that. We're gonna have somebody come in and go, "You're gonna take a lap on your take on the 2025 tight end pool." I'm not saying they can't grow on me. I need to see more, to be honest with you. I think a good landing spot for a tight end in this class would probably be, if I'm spitballing, the Colts would be a great place for I think the tight end position to develop and flourish. But that's if AR5 can prove himself, if he can actually be a really, really good player. I think Cincinnati would be fun to have a solid tight end option to kind of, especially if Higgins ends up leaving. Place like New England could be interesting. I think, Henry's getting older, and we might really see Drake May cling to a player like Laporta type player to develop. So there's a lot of decent landing spots, I think. Washington, I think Ben Sinnott's still someone to watch. I think he could be great. So I would say that, but then at the same time, I think he's going to be pretty damn good. I think I'm just looking around. There's a lot of good potential landing spots, but I think those feel like the best places, but I just don't know how I feel about this class yet. I'll have more on it as we watch workouts and such. It just didn't pop my first go through on the film, and I'll be honest, I've combed through the quarterbacks, I've combed through the running backs, I've combed through the wide receivers multiple times. I'll go through them again. The tight end position, I really wasn't impressed enough to even run through it again. So I do have to do a little more watching of footage and film on those guys, to be honest with you. But we'll see.
Appreciate it, Smitty. Have a good night, man.
All right, later, bro. Anything else, Ron?
No. I think that's about it. That's all I got.
Oh, I'm proud of you, dude. I thought you were going to call in just absolutely guns blazing tonight. Ron.
No, I did that last night.
You must have had your steak dinner already. Which I'm cooking tonight.
Nah, I didn't.
By the way.
No, what I did up scrambled egg and cheese on a English muffin.
I'm going to do steak.
It was good.
I'm going to do steak, mashed potatoes, and maybe some scrambled eggs and nice buttered croissants from Costco. You ever gotten? It's the biggest steal at Costco. I think they messed up. Someone's going to get fired eventually. These Costco croissants, there's like a count of I think 18. They're buttered. They melt in your mouth. They're about, each of them are about this big in this big, huge plastic container. There's maybe there's 12 of them in there, and it's $5.99. It's $5.99 for these 12 croissants. I eat them like they're a bag of chips. Instead of a bag of chips, I just grab a croissant. They're unbelievable. It's the biggest steal at Costco.
We don't have Costco here. So.
Oh, Sam's Club?
We got Sam's Club and BJ's are the two clubs we got here.
Yeah, someone's getting fired at Costco. They're supposed to be probably $59.99. They forgot. Somebody put the decimal point in the wrong place. All right, later, Ron. Appreciate you.
All right, later, Smitty. Later, chat.
300 calories per croissant. That's not too bad. I mean, I don't know. All right, guys. This thing bothered me too. Is this was Kay Adams and RG3 were talking about Josh Allen, and they were talking about Josh Allen saying is he incapable of beating Patrick Mahomes, and he said they can't beat him. He ended up clarifying a little bit that he's not going to necessarily say that they can't, but he did. I mean, he did initially, and then he kind of walked it back. But when saying can he beat Pat Mahomes, he said they can't. And this is where I almost lost it, because it's like they didn't surround him with enough weapons. And we could say Keon Coleman's still a guy we like, but you're going to have to move around that. And hopefully he develops and you end up having a Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. You hopefully have a Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. You hopefully have a St. Brown and Jamison Williams. You can't say, well, what happened to Keon Coleman? You've got to go out and get a T. Higgins. You have to go draft a Ted McMillan or a Travis Hunter or a Burden. You got to go, Luther Burden would be great as well. Any of the top 3 or 4 wide receivers. But to act like the Buffalo Bills did enough to surround this man with weapons to endure game after game after game. Like I said last year, like I'll say this year, there are so many games you got to play consecutively that if you don't have the depth and firepower, you will be eventually stopped, because the games are going to get progressively harder and you're going to go up against a team that doesn't have any weaknesses, like the Eagles with the defense, the run, and when all that's cooking, Hurts can absolutely ball any given game. He can do amazing things. He can do mediocre things. He was on point. Hurts was phenomenal because the entire operation was moving and grooving. And granted, the defense was a much easier matchup than this one. So we'll see what happens in this really, really solid matchup. It's going to be a very fun Super Bowl. And everybody that's boycotting the Super Bowl because of 2 plays that are arguable, I don't know what you're doing. I call cap on that one. I call cap. I don't think you're going to boycott the Super Bowl. I believe that whoever says they're not watching the Super Bowl because of that, I call cap.
That is cap.
I totally do. If you're gonna actually push the dip and wings and pizza and family and friends and the commercials aside and watch golf on Super Bowl Sunday in your principal trousers, like I would pay to see that. That is ridiculous. You're gonna boycott the NFL Super Bowl because of what? Because of what? Thank you for the super chat, my boy Dane. Hopefully you heard my response. Is Dane still here? Dane, I think Dane hasn't messaged since the super chat, so I don't know if he saw my reaction. But Dane, appreciate the super chat. I will be back probably tonight. This is probably the most pushback show I'm going to get for the next handful of months. I mean, I don't know that we'll have even a show where we're probably mostly in agreement on this channel. And I didn't really read the chat as I was ranting too much because, hey, I don't want to yell at anybody today in terms of their stance. If anybody does feel differently than I do, that's fine. I just wanted to voice my opinion and give people that were tired of hearing it some sort of stance that was backing up what they were thinking, because everything you look at, it's almost like politics. People are afraid to tell people what they really think about the situation because 31 fan bases will go for your neck. 31 fan bases will unfairly attack you if you were to say, I don't think the referees blew this call. You're getting attacked by 31 hungry, just fierce and upset fan bases that are mad in general about Patrick Mahomes and the KC Chiefs and the referees' favoritism, which is clearly present. There's a clear favoritism overall for the Kansas City Chiefs, especially the amount of money the NFL makes off Taylor Swift being in the stadium there on Super Bowl Sunday. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I'm just merely here to paint the picture that in this particular game, the things people are saying about it, in my opinion, are not accurate. That's why I came here to vent for those that can't vent about it. But again, here, this is wild take about Josh Allen. Let's see if the Bills can change the environment that Josh Allen is being forced to play in, where he doesn't have an elite wide receiver. If Keon Coleman can develop, great. If he can't, you need to pretend like he's not there. You need to go get a T. Higgins. You need to go get somebody. And you better do it fast, because Josh Allen deserves to have some support. Mahomes, Barkley are the real MVPs. Look, Barkley, if we were to be fair, the award for NFL MVP is a regular season award, and we got to accept that. We just got to accept it. That's what it is. What it is. I don't think it should be. I think it should be about the playoffs as well. I know that there's a Super Bowl MVP, and I get that, and they want to have those two separate. But because the NFL MVP is such an important award that kind of, in my opinion, trumps the Super Bowl MVP, because it speaks to the entirety of the season as well, and that's important. I believe it should be. Maybe it doesn't include the Super Bowl. Maybe it is cast after the Super Bowl, and it probably does contain one of the players that are in the Super Bowl, probably, but it deserves to be. You know, or rename it regular season MVP and do an overall MVP and then do a Super Bowl MVP. But people get confused. They get all upset. They talk about how Lamar did this in the playoffs, or they want to talk about JD5 in the playoffs, and you can't really do that. But the only four people that should be argued for regular season MVP should be JD5, Saquon Barkley, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen. Josh Allen, Lamar, JD5, Saquon Barkley. Those are the four players that should be argued for NFL regular season MVP. And Barkley should 100% be in that conversation. And I know he's been balling out in an absolute monster. Shout out to what is it, Station 70? Daniel Hart and the firefighters. Is it Station 70? I forget. Shout out to the boys at Station 70, I believe. I'll correct it once I see it. But yeah, MVP Barkley should be in the conversation. Appreciate you all. I probably will be back tonight at some point for a live stream. I'll see you all then. Maybe we draft. We did this draft. Where is it? We did this draft, which was so fun to do, this mock draft. And it's wild. Look at it. I mean, we were having fun. We were kind of using the projected ADP mix with my thoughts, and we massaged it around a little bit. And here's what we came up with. Pause. And so we're gonna definitely get into more mock drafts this offseason. I didn't do a good job of providing mock draft data for you guys last year. I don't know that we'll do a lot of mock drafts together. I think a lot of the mock drafts will be my projection for, educational purposes, not necessarily to compete. Because with mock drafts, all you end up doing is getting another 11 people. They're usually the same 11 people that get in really quickly into the draft. And then everybody else just watches you draft against other people, and then everybody snipes everybody, and it doesn't help a single soul. But I think if we do a lot of mocks this offseason, it will be me showing you where I would mock draft players, because that's more helpful to you. And then we're going to get on Underdog tonight, probably, if I do come back, and actually do the drafting for 2025. It is up, baby. The big board, I believe, is up. So hit this link right now. I'll pin it in the live chat. Promo code Smitty. Smash it. Hit the link. The first deposit, they'll match you 50% all the way up to $1,000. So if you deposit the minimum of $10, they'll give you $5, and you'll have a couple drafts in you for tonight. So join me on Underdog tonight. Join me on the channel. Links in the description of the video. Links pinned in the live chat. Promo code Smitty. Underdog. Get ready for the drafts tonight. See you all then.